Welcome back to the deep dive. Today, we are opening up a source file that is fundamentally different from anything we usually tackle here.
Yeah, this is a big one.
We aren't looking at white papers or, historical documents. We are examining a set of creative works that, they function as an intellectual and professional declaration of war.
That's a good way to put it. A declaration of war.
We're diving into the mind and the very recent output of Sherry Harris. Specifically, we're focusing on 3 songs she released simultaneously on November 16th, 2025.
If I Ever the Other Doors, an empire building in session.
Exactly.
And we have to stress, right up top that this is not a music review.
No, not at all.
This is an investigation into the purpose and the rhetorical strategy behind these lyrics. The context, which Harris makes completely explicit in the sources, is that this lyrical trilogy is a direct, incredibly detailed response to a specific family member.
A highly critical one, it seems.
Oh, absolutely. This is someone who, according to the lyrics, repeatedly and very publicly dismissed her professional work, her creativity, her achievements, all of it. Instead, he preferred to sort of dwell obsessively on his own past.
On his own outdated glories, yeah.
Exactly.
And that context is just, it's everything. This is musical confrontation taken to, an extreme formal degree. It's this very public, very permanent declaration of creative and emotional independence.
It is.
So our mission today is to unpack this trilogy as a structured argument. It's a process of intellectual and creative self-reclamation.
Right. She's using poetry and music like a surgical tool. She doesn't just vent. She uses, and this is key, specific measurable facts, psychological analysis, and these really sharp intellectual arguments to just systematically dismantle the aggressor's entire narrative.
Which is what makes this so fascinating.
This material is so rich because it fuses that deep, genuine personal hurt with the cold, hard reality of professional achievement. It really gives you a blueprint for how one uses quantifiable success as the ultimate unassailable shield against that kind of familial invalidation.
So we're going to follow her own structural journey, right? Across these 3 distinct movements.
Exactly. First, the direct confrontation and the personal wound in If I Ever. Then we move to the intellectual and artistic critique of stagnation in The Other Doors.
And finally, the objective, measurable professional validation in Empire Building in Session.
The knockout punch.
Let's unpack this journey, starting right at the core of that emotional opening statement, If I Ever.
Okay.
This song, it doesn't really use subtlety, does it? It just jumps straight into the confrontation, the boundary setting, and establishing the severity of the emotional damage right out of the gate.
It's pure, distilled psychological defense. It begins by immediately targeting the insecurity that Harris clearly perceives is driving this person's behavior. Look at that opening volley.
If I ever meant anything to you, then why are you trying to cut me down just to feel tall?
Right there. That's the engine of the whole dismissal.
Yeah.
It's not about some genuine disagreement with her art. She's saying it's an active attempt to shrink her success, just to inflate his own perceived but very fragile value.
It's all projection.
It's pure projection, driven by his own internal inadequacy.
That line, cut me down just to feel tall, that's the absolute key to understanding the entire dynamic she's describing, isn't it?
It is.
It reframes the aggressor not as a critic, but as someone who is perpetually leaning on her foundation just to stop himself from falling over.
Yes. And she knows it. That's the thing. She immediately highlights this painful paradox. She asks, how is it that a little tiny girl can make a man like you feel so fucking small?
Which is just a brutal question.
It's a total indictment of his perceived status versus his actual fragility. He is, we can presume, the imposing or established figure in the family, the one whose identity should be stable.
Right, the one with the history.
Exactly. And yet her burgeoning success, this small thing to him, poses such a profound existential threat to his established identity that he has to actively try and crush it.
So she's highlighting the complete reversal of the power dynamic he's trying to enforce.
Completely. The fact that his ego is so easily destabilized by her rise, it's a deeply resonant observation for anyone who's ever seen their own professional success trigger that kind of deep jealousy in people who really should be supportive.
Then the rejection of responsibility in verse 2, it's so swift. And she uses this magnificent economic metaphor.
That's incredible.
She draws this sharp line between his path, his failures, and her own self-sufficiency. The failures that crown your head do not define where I butter my bread.
That couplet is so critical. It separates their economic realities entirely. The phrase, the failures that crown your head,
It's so biting.
it's so biting. It speaks to his lack of current success, or maybe his clinging to some past status.
Yeah.
Hollow crown.
Sure.
And she contrasts that directly with where she butters my bread. Her contemporary financial reality, her self-earned sustenance.
It's her way of saying your status or your lack of it has absolutely zero bearing on my present and my future financial survival.
It's a complete declaration of economic and emotional independence. Full stop.
And on the basis of that independence, she issues this ultimate sincerity test. She sets the bar for reconciliation impossibly high, maybe intentionally so.
I think almost certainly intentionally.
If he ever thought a single kind thing about thee, the requirement for proof is, well, it's simple, but it's profound. He has to speak my truth instead of killing the real me.
And she's framing his dismissal not just as a critique, but as a kind of identity assassination.
Killing the real me.
Yeah. The demand is for unconditional acknowledgement of her path and her reality. She's not even asking for applause, just for him to stop the emotional murder.
It's a demand for psychological validation that his actions have consistently shown he is just incapable of giving. Now, she isn't pretending this doesn't hurt her. The intensity really builds in that first bridge where she admits the pain is real.
Right. She says the tears fall hard and fast when the haunts and hurts come back from the past. She's being completely honest about the lasting impact of this relationship.
But the very next lines are just the definition of resilience.
But I still breathe. I still burn first.
Yeah. The pain is acknowledged. It has a physical manifestation in the tears, but it's secondary to her internal engine. It doesn't stop her progress.
If anything, it almost seems to fuel it. It's a really powerful and necessary transition that leads directly to the core declaration of the chorus.
Which is where she finally states her terms. Let's spend some time on this chorus because this is the definitive declaration of if I ever.
It really is.
She sets the physical and emotional boundaries with laser precision.
Just let me be. I'm not your echo, not your shade. Just let me breathe. I'm the fire you never made.
This is a lyrical declaration of independent origin and substance. I mean, by rejecting the labels echo or shade, she's denying any kind of paternity he might claim over her identity or her creativity.
That's a great point. An echo needs an original sound. A shade needs a light source to cast it.
And she's rejecting the dependence that's inherent in both of those things.
Right.
The phrase, I'm the fire you never made, I mean, that means he cannot claim credit for her passion, for her drive, or for her output, even if he tried to extinguish it.
It's self-generated.
Self-generated, self-sustaining energy.
And she describes his mechanism of control so vividly. She says, you can try to own my silence. Lock me on that tiny shelf.
That shelf metaphor is so effective because it signifies not just dismissal, but containment.
Yes.
It's reducing her entire life, her body of work, her potential, to this small, easily contained and easily ignored artifact on his mental mantelpiece.
And the contrast is spectacular. She contrasts that containment with her true internal power. I'm the thunder in the quiet.
Which suggests her power isn't necessarily loud or, directed at seeking his validation, which is exactly what he wants.
Right.
Instead, the power exists internally, waiting to manifest. The thunder is the force, the disruption, the magnitude, all contained within the quiet space she has carved out for herself.
This entire chorus is built toward that definitive, non-negotiable action, which is the final line.
I reclaim myself.
It's a pure assertion of ownership over her own life and her own narrative.
Nothing less.
So moving into verse 3, she shifts from pain to this cold, calculated analysis of his neediness. She refuses to be an ego prop, recognizing his need for her failure.
Absolutely.
She vows she won't be the crumb, the slop, or the bum that props your ego when it comes undone. That sounds like someone who has observed this specific pattern of behavior for years.
For a very long time. She's realized that his attempts to diminish her are a direct reaction to his own impending instability.
He needs her to be small to feel secure.
Exactly. And she uses this moment to launch a really serious critique of his personal philosophy and his values. She states that if he ever gave even one true fuck, he would stand for me, love me, lift me up.
And that's a crucial distinction. Can you explain that distinction between just caring and lifting up?
Well, she's contrasting two types of value systems. He seems to be stuck in a system that focuses on external factors. Waiting for the right moment, waiting for luck, or just relying on past reputation.
Right.
Harris argues that true value, especially familial value, is measured by the proactive investment you make in other people. It's about replacing his focus on self-pity and external circumstance with the responsibility of genuine active support.
She then swiftly dismisses his inherent assumption that she isn't working hard or achieving anything. She demands, "Stop pretending I'm not a climber, a claimer, a maker."
And while his cold dismissal just makes me an acre, the implication is that this pain isn't debilitating.
No, it's like the sensation of a wound that's healing or maybe scar tissue forming. It's toughening her up.
That's a great way to think about it. And what's most fascinating in the transition to that second bridge is how she completely turns his critique back onto him. The focus shifts entirely from her achievement to his systemic flaws.
She asserts, "Your hollow values don't spotlight me. They bounce your mirror on your own disease."
That is some powerful rhetorical jujitsu right there.
It really is. She's saying, when you try to use your broken, flawed value system to reflect poorly on me, all it manages to do is show you the depth of your own brokenness.
And Bridge 2 reinforces this with equal weight. Your worthless values don't point a light at me. They shine your mirror deep into who you'll never be.
So his judgment is entirely self-referential. He's incapable of seeing her clearly because his vision is completely obscured by his own history and his own insecurity.
Exactly. His attempt to judge her becomes an accidental act of self-exposure.
The final verdict of the song is in the outro, and it's just the cold final punch. The finality is absolute.
It is. It returns to that opening thesis, if I ever meant anything to you, but resolves it with definitive withdrawal.
She gives him the answer he was demanding with his behavior.
She does. She says, take that belief to your grave, it's true, because I never saw it, and I sure won't crawl for it.
She withdraws any possibility of reconciliation based on his past behavior. It's a closed chapter.
He missed his window to claim any stake in her life.
Yeah.
It's over.
And that sets the stage perfectly for the second movement of this trilogy, The Other Doors. If the first song was about the emotional injury and drawing that boundary, this track elevates the argument to the intellectual and artistic plane. It uses the metaphor of music and color to demonstrate his cognitive and creative stagnation.
We shift from the personal hurt to the intellectual deficiency that caused the hurt in the first place.
And this section begins with a spoken word setup that is just devastating in its specificity. It's all about this concept of the missed gift.
It's brutal. It gives you, the listener, an exact chronological data point of the rejection.
She reveals she told this family member she was dropping 6 albums next Friday. I mean, just think about that sheer volume, 6 albums in 1 week.
It's a staggering amount of output. It reflects an intense, focused professional life.
And the devastating realization follows immediately. He didn't ask what kind, he didn't ask why 6 or what they were called.
The volume and diversity of her work were immediately, casually, just ignored.
What makes it so tragic is the active effort Harris made to bridge that gap. She didn't just mention the work, she reveals the ultimate irony.
2 of those albums were specifically painted in your favorite fucking green.
A tribute, a personalized offering, an attempt to speak his language.
It was a customized gift meant to appeal directly to his supposed artistic sensibilities. But he never opened the other doors. You never even looked.
He rejected the attempt to connect before she even offered the specifics.
Yes.
That opening spoken word passage just defines the thesis of The Other Doors. He is trapped by his own narrow perspective, and he missed the gift that was specifically tailored for him because he only sees what he already knows.
And that leads us right into verse 1, which details the origin of this obsolescence. She describes his artistic freezing point so precisely.
He tumbled right into somebody's scene, loved the green room glow, and critically never let go.
So this wasn't a natural evolution for him. It was an active choice of self-arrest. He became emotionally frozen in that specific moment.
He closed his mind, like he closed that door. He made the active choice to stop learning and evolving.
Never stopped to wonder if there might be more. This stagnation is the central intellectual crime that she's critiquing here. He substituted genuine, evolving curiosity for fixed, comfortable nostalgia.
The chorus then uses that color metaphor to illustrate the vastness he's ignoring. Green is his singular chosen space. Maybe it represents a specific genre, an era, or even envy and money, given the context.
Could be all of those. And Harris juxtaposes this with the breadth of the creative world. Blue, gold, and a whole variety of genres he just dismisses.
Jazz in the shadows, folk in the fight, synths in the silence, soul in the night. Why those specific genres, do you think? Jazz, folk, synth, soul?
I think they represent diversity. Diversity in musical tradition, in technology, in emotional depth. Jazz requires complexity and intellectual engagement. Folk carries a tradition of truth and struggle. Synths represent modern technology and sound design. And soul is, the emotional bedrock.
So by limiting himself to green, which we can infer is a reference to some kind of guitar-driven, maybe classic rock or 90s alternative sound,
Right.
he's rejecting the entire scope of the last few decades of musical innovation and the diverse emotional languages that are contained within it.
He is stuck on that first guitar scream, and he never outgrew your teenage dream.
This critique goes so far beyond just music. It's a critique of someone who mistakes nostalgia for taste, comfort for genuine passion, and self-referential listening for actual artist appreciation.
And it raises that crucial question about the nature of appreciation itself, doesn't it? When does loving a genre turn into actively gatekeeping all other art?
Harris tackles this hypocrisy head-on in verse 2, criticizing his self-proclaimed man of the arts persona.
His playlists are fossils, no moving parts. That is just a brilliant clinical image of stagnation.
It's perfect. He claims to love music, but then he dismisses anything new. He calls it noise, call it fake, call it weak or too new. This is the predictable language of the resistant traditionalist.
And this leads Harris to identify the deep truth that's revealed by his behavior.
Yeah.
He believes real music's the one that hits you first and last.
And she just hits the nail on the head. His appreciation is purely nostalgic and self-referential. It's not about the technical skill or the emotional impact of the art being created now.
No, it's entirely about his memory of who he was when he first heard it. If it doesn't immediately validate his own youth, he dismisses it.
She summarizes this so beautifully. It's not that deep, it's just bigger than you.
That line suggests that the modern landscape, its complexity, its genre fluidity, its sheer volume, is overwhelming to him. So he resorts to dismissal simply because he can't control it and he can't categorize it or feel immediately relevant within it.
The bridge, which is delivered in that tight, icy style, it just reinforces this psychological limitation.
He says he built his identity, his house,
Yeah.
out of gate-kept chords and a narrow mouth. He confuses his personal comfort zone, this idea of love what you know, with genuine passion for art, which requires risk and exploration.
He froze your heart at your first live show. The rest of the world kept spinning, but he chose immobility.
He became just echoes and old CDs, and this is the intellectual reason he rejects Harris. Her success represents the very dynamism and progress he intentionally shut himself out from.
And that ties right back to the original betrayal in verse 3. She points out again the missed gift. She built songs in his preferred language, wrapped in green and something true.
But he was so focused on validating his own past that he didn't care how the music was made, which is the very essence of artistry.
His actual desire, as Harris diagnoses it, is so revealing. He wants thunder, not the thought.
Right. He wants the immediate visceral impact, the familiar comfort of the sound, but not the intellectual or emotional labor that went into the composition, the structure, or the evolution of it.
He only wants nostalgia, but only if it's hot.
The conclusion here is absolutely surgical. He calls his limited view taste, a declaration of high culture.
But Harris clarifies it for what she believes it really is.
It's just fear of anything made past your golden years.
It's not taste, it's temporal resistance. He praises the past, but spits at the now. He's a worshiper of relics, actively hostile to new creation.
And the outro just seals that indictment with a really critical, specific detail. He is wearing your nostalgia like a concrete wall. And here's the key line for context. He's still building shrines with Eddie's dues.
We need to clarify that for the listener. What does Eddie's dues likely represent in this context?
Well, given the themes of stagnation and worship of an outdated scene, Eddie's dues is almost certainly a specific reference to a relic of a past musical era. It could be industry jargon, referring to an early, famous piece of equipment, maybe a specific vintage guitar or an amplifier, or a type of recording console associated with some hero figure named Eddie.
Or a specific, outdated genre tradition.
Exactly. The point is, he is building shrines. He's spending his energy, his time, his identity on tools or figures that are no longer relevant to modern professional creation. He is focused on the tools of the past, while she is focusing on the output of the present.
That detail just grounds the critique perfectly. He's obsessed with maintaining an old museum, while Harris is out there painting in 1,000 hues, building a whole new world.
Which connects his emotional dismissal of her work in If I Ever with his intellectual failure in The Other Doors.
He dismisses her work because it forces him to confront a world that moved on without him.
Precisely. And now we transition to the final movement, Empire Building in Session. This is where Harris moves completely past the emotional injury and the intellectual critique.
She stops arguing.
She stops arguing. She stops trying to convince him. She simply presents the unassailable objective reality of her success. This is a complete shift in power and focus. She is validating her achievements independently.
This is the moment where that emotional vulnerability is entirely replaced by quantifiable professional data.
Right.
It begins immediately in verse 1 by contrasting their activities. She defines the opposition's futile endeavors. While he was stalling, making calls, and parked in a shack with a broken plan, she was intensely and monumentally working.
And her activity is defined as scripting a legacy kingdom-wide. The difference is staggering. He's operating with a broken plan in a figurative shack, while she has built a castle solo with one bare hand.
She emphasizes the solitary, difficult nature of her success. She built it without help, and certainly without his support.
She also directly addresses any implication he might have made that her work was insignificant because he didn't hear about it.
She clarifies, "No, I was loud, just didn't speak to shrinking crowds."
Which means her audience and her scope are fundamentally different from his. Her focus has moved past his relevance entirely. She wasn't quiet, she was just communicating on a frequency he couldn't access, aimed at a much larger, growing demographic.
The chorus then delivers this concrete boundary, defining her new territory, and it's framed in the language of professional exclusion.
It reads like a legal document posted on a studio door, or a corporate memo.
Signs on the door, read it with Pride Empire Building in session inside. This isn't a hobby, a band, or a side project.
No.
It's a full-fledged professional enterprise with a formal name.
And the explicit exclusion is crystal clear. She is on a fucking mission. The space is closed to him because of his past failures. Don't disturb what you never deserved.
He lost access to her professional life and her new world because he failed her personally and intellectually. The consequence of his dismissal is being permanently locked out of her success.
And this is where the measurable data in verse 2 becomes absolutely critical. This is the heart of the logical argument. She uses sheer volume and output to dismantle his emotional invalidation. She turns his subjective critique into objective, audited fact.
She lists her inventory.
She does.
Let's focus on these numbers because they are the hard currency of her independence and the undeniable truth of her status. She states, 7 collectives, 54 albums, 48 singles, all carved with my thumbs.
54 albums and 48 singles. This is not the output of a casual artist. This is the inventory of a prolific professional powerhouse.
These numbers are objective facts that utterly overwhelm any subjective claim he could make about her work being inconsequential or her being small.
How can you dismiss a career that has produced that volume of verifiable work? It completely nullifies the basis of his critique.
And that phrase, carved with my thumbs, it emphasizes that she is the sole proprietor and creator of this massive body of work.
It eliminates any question of luck or ghostwriters or external funding. It's manual labor, persistence, and singular vision, transforming her life story into a quantifiable database of achievement.
So she defines her own value internally because she no longer needs external affirmation. She states she doesn't chase ghosts or beg for a stage.
Which is perhaps what he's been reduced to doing in his stagnation.
Right. Instead, she carves my truth on every page. The output is the legacy, and the truth of her labor is verifiable on every track listing.
It is.
Now, just when you, the listener, might think the song is purely about professional pride and business success, the bridge cuts back so sharply to the emotional core.
The ultimate specific moment of betrayal.
And it's delivered low and sharp. She reminds everyone that he called her best friend, your world.
Which contextualizes the failure. The previous lines established the relationship was supposed to be one of intimacy and affection. But the specific failure is then revealed.
But when it came time to clap, you curled.
This confirms the dismissal was active sabotage, not just passive neglect. It wasn't just a lack of interest in the 6 albums. It was an intentional, physical refusal to celebrate her success when it mattered most.
It shows that his jealousy was more powerful than his proclaimed affection.
Exactly. That moment, you curled, confirms the whole narrative established in If I Ever. The dismissal was active sabotage, driven by this deep-seated insecurity and envy.
But in the final chorus of Empire Building in Session, the power shift is absolute and irreversible.
She defines her current state of being with this powerful, future-oriented language. This is progression, she sings, not just trying to survive.
And survival is reactive, it's focused on the immediate threat. Progression is proactive and focused on building the future.
She has moved beyond merely surviving his attacks.
And the contrast in status is hammered home one last time. While he is still dreaming of a past glory stuck in that teenage dream we heard about, she is drafting succession.
The use of that legal and managerial language succession planning, it shows her status as an established entity with longevity, structure, and a deep focus on the next generation of her work.
She has moved from being the dismissed artist to being the architect of an enduring creative enterprise.
And the ultimate closure, the final thought, is delivered in the outro. The family member isn't just excluded, he is now reduced to a cautionary tale, an abstract teaching moment.
The song fades out with that chilling definitive line, "You had the key, now you're just the lesson."
He was given access, opportunity, the potential to be part of her legacy, but his insecurity, his fear, and his intellectual stagnation led him to lock himself out entirely.
He's no longer a challenging relationship. He is an archived mistake to be learned from.
If we look at the complete trajectory of this trilogy, Harris executed a masterclass in creative self-reclamation. She used structure, poetry, and verifiable data as her weapons.
She moved from expressing that deep, raw personal injury and drawing boundaries in "if I ever"
to issuing a sophisticated intellectual and artistic critique of stagnation in The Other Doors.
And finally, cementing her professional achievements as unassailable objective validation in Empire Building in Session.
This deep dive really shows us how creative work can serve as a detailed, documented response to emotional invalidation. She didn't just write a song about feeling hurt.
No, she wrote a 3-part legal brief, a business plan, and a declaration of artistic war, complete with metrics.
She transformed a deep personal injury into fuel for a verifiable, successful empire.
And this raises a profound point for every listener out there. Harris's response wasn't predicated on changing the aggressor's mind, which, let's be honest, is often a futile goal in these dynamics.
Almost always. It was predicated on using overwhelming objective reality to establish her self-worth and her independence, regardless of his opinion.
The sources detail how Sherry Harris used specific, measurable achievements, 7 collectives, 54 albums, 48 singles, to absolutely dismantle emotional invalidation from a figure who should have been supportive.
And this makes you question the currency of value in conflict.
It certainly raises an interesting philosophical question about the value of different currencies in our lives when emotional or familial validation is denied. When people dismiss your work or your path because it threatens their own narrow sense of identity.
Right.
Are objective, measurable achievements the only true currency for self-worth and independence? Do we sometimes need to trade the desire for emotional recognition for the undeniable, tangible proof of our own creative or professional output?
It's definitely something to think about the next time someone tells you your work doesn't matter. Thank you for joining us for this deep dive into the extraordinary narrative and complex psychology. We'll see you next time.
If I ever meant anything to you, then why are you trying to cut me down just to feel tall? How is it that a little tiny girl can make a man like you feel so fucking small? The failures that crown your head do not define where I butter my bread. If you ever thought a single kind thing about thee, then speak my truth instead of killing the real me. My tears fall hard and fast when the haunts and hurts come back from the past and shove me aside like a curse. But I still breathe, I still burn first. Just let me be, I'm not your echo, not your shade. Just let me breathe, I'm the fire you never made. You can try to own my silence, lock me on the tiny shelf, but I'm the thunder in the quiet, I reclaim myself. I won't be the crumb, the slop, or the bum that props your ego when it comes undone. 'Cause if you ever gave even one true fuck about someone else instead of your luck, you'd stand for me, love me, lift me up. Lift me up. whistle just makes me an acre. Your hollow values don't spotlight me, they bounce your mirror on your own disease. Your worthless values don't point a light at me, they shine your mirror deep into who you'll never be. I told you I was dropping 6 albums next Friday, and you didn't even ask. What kind didn't ask why 6? Didn't ask what they were called. The sickest part, 2 of them are painted in your favorite fucking green. But you never opened the other doors. You never even looked, this one's for you. You opened the door, all wide-eyed and green, tumbled right into somebody's scene. They cranked the amp and you caught the fire, said this is the sound that feeds desire. You opened those eyes, saw the green room glow, and thought, yes, I love green, and you never let go. You closed your mind like you closed that door, never stopped to wonder if there might be more. But blue is pretty fantastic too, and gold can wrap its arms around you. There's rhythm in places you never explored, but you chose green and you slammed the door. There's jazz in the shadows, folk in the fight, stems in the silence, soul in the night, but you still swear by that first guitar scream. You never outgrew your teenage dream. Like a man of the arts, but your playlist of fossils, no moving parts. You say I love music, then scoff at a beat like melody's dead if it's not on repeat. You mock every sound that don't sound like your past, as if real music's the one that hits you first and last. Call it noise, call it fake, call it weak or too new, but it's not that deep, it's just bigger than you. You loved one room, then built a house out of gate-kept chords and a narrow mouth. You say art is life, but you live in a frame where every new color's just fuel for your shame. You don't love music, you love what you know. You froze your heart at your first live show. The world kept spinning, but you chose to freeze. Now you're just echoes in old CDs. You said you love that color, love that sound, so I built you songs where it still echoes around. 2 albums dressed in your favorite shade, but you didn't care how the music was made. You just want thunder, not the thought. You want nostalgia, but only if it's hot. So you miss the gift I made for you, wrapped in green and something true. You never opened the other doors, clung to your riffs like sacred lore. You call it taste, but it's just fear of anything made past your golden years. You praise the past, but spit at the now. Worship your gods and forget the how. You say you love music, but here's the score. You loved one song and nothing more. by stone. I raised these walls while you were stalling, making calls. Said I was quiet, no, I was loud. Just didn't speak to shrinking crowds. You said where you been, like I owed a reply. I've been scripting a legacy kingdom wide. You've been parked in a shack with a broken plan. I built a castle solo with one bare hand. Signs on the door, read it with pride. Empire building in session inside. No more knocks, no calls, no small time confessions. I'm not missing, I'm on a fucking mission. Don't disturb what you never deserve. This kingdom's mine, watch it rise. Unreserved. 7 collectives, 54 albums, 48 singles, all carved with my thumbs. I don't chase ghosts or beg for a stage. I carve my truth on every page. You called me best friend, you called me your world, but when it came time to clap, you curled. Signs on the door, legacy alive. Empire building, not just trying to survive while you're still dreaming. I'm drafting succession. This ain't absence, this is progression. Building in session. Empire, building in session. You had the key. Now you're just a lesson.